Hello music fans, you're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music, and this is New Music's Alive in 2025. I'm going to give my first impressions on 6 new music releases that came out on August 8th, 2025, and I'll talk about them in my order of preference, starting with A.C.T and their album Eternal Winter. This is the 6th album by this Swedish band, and this is progressive rock. I'm going to put this in my very good tier. I thought their last EP, Falling from 2023, was also very good. And the single I heard ahead of time before the album, called The Family, was a fun, silly song, really catchy. So I was really looking forward to this. And the album continues that sound. Uh, and I'm kind of on the fence between my excellent tier and very good tier here for my rating. But I decided to go with very good for now. Maybe it'll grow on me more. They brilliantly balance being eclectic and progressive with being very catchy, accessible, poppy, and fun in a way that anyone can enjoy. Definitely check out A.C.T if you're a fan of Queen, Supertramp, Muse, and Styx, as it's kind of like a combination of those bands that really have this accessibility, but musical eclecticism and progressive tendencies. The lyrics on this album by A.C.T also seem to be humorously describing some kind of dramatic family event, and that seems to be a repeated theme throughout many tracks, from what I could gather while I was listening. I don't tend to focus on lyrics as much, so I haven't really fully grasped every detail of the concept yet as I listen more to the music. I'm not actually sure if it's a full-on concept album, but I do want to listen more to hear if I can better understand the story here. If that sounds good to you, check out A.C.T and their album Eternal Winter. Next up, I've got an EP by Crypt called Saturnian Appendices. This is epic doom metal with traditional heavy metal influences, and they're an American band. I'm also putting this in my very good tier. And I also thought their last album, The Stygian Rose, was very good too, so I was excited to hear this EP. This would be good to check out if you're a fan of first 6 Black Sabbath albums, because the riffing sounds like Black Sabbath, but there are some shreddier guitar leads that are more reminiscent of Judas Priest guitar solos. It's pretty fast and powerful for doom metal at times, but it also has some slow, heavy grooves that are more typical in doom. Also, if you're a fan of kind of doomy, more modern doom, epic kind of bands like Avatarium and Pallbearer, I think you will like this release from Crypt. Check it out. Next up is Blackbraid and their album Blackbraid 3, the 3rd album by this American band. And this is atmospheric melodic black metal with folk and indigenous music influences. Also putting this in my very good tier. This is a one-man black metal project created by John Krieger. And like with the two I mentioned before, I listened to the previous album before. I heard Blackbraid 2 when it came out, and I thought that was very good. And the single I heard from this one ahead of time, War Drums at Dawn on the Day of My Death, was a solid track. So I was hoping that this album could be even better than Blackbraid 2. I'd say it's about on par right now. So I'm also putting it in my very good tier. And I think the indigenous music influence mixed with black metal is a pretty cool sound. I like a lot of the acoustic parts on this album from Blackbraid. And I actually like a lot of the acoustic parts more than I like the heavy black metal parts. The Earth is Weeping is a nice acoustic instrumental track with animal noises behind it. I'm not actually sure what animal they used for a lot of their animal sounds. Maybe it's a loon or some other bird or don't know, sometimes it almost sounds like howling, but I feel like it's a loon. Sometimes it sounds like it could be a wolf. Maybe there's multiple animals used. Let me know if you know what animal it is down below in the comments. Traversing the Forest of Eternal Dusk has a similar acoustic indigenous vibe. And this band kind of sounds like I listened to another band this year called Mowiza that has some indigenous music influences in their metal, but they were more groove on the groove metal side rather than the black metal. But it kind of sounds like Mowiza meets like Havu Krunu and Emperor on the more black metal, but still kind of melodic and cool atmosphere kind of side. If that sounds good to you, check out Blackbraid with Blackbraid 3. Next up, I gotta mention a band I love, which is Cult of Luna, and they put out a single, and I don't usually talk about singles, but it's kind of it's a triple single. So I'm almost counting it as if it's an EP, even though it's very short. It's 9 minutes long. It's 3 tracks. It's called Beyond 3, 4, and 5 by Cult of Luna. And I wouldn't normally talk about it, but I don't think these are going to be on an album. So it's kind of a standalone release, special kind of bonus track kind of thing. And Cult of Luna is a great Swedish band. They're progressive post-metal with atmospheric sludge metal. I'm putting this in my very good tier as well. So it's a three-track suite single that's about 9 minutes in total. So very short for consideration of like being an EP or being an album. It's almost like it's just one track. But I saw the band say on their Facebook page that back when they recorded The Long Road North, they had this idea to make different versions of the track Beyond and have some versions with vocals, some instrumental, and have them appear as interludes on the album. But unfortunately, they couldn't fit all those on the album, so they're just happy to share them with us now. So these aren't going to be on their next album. They're kind of reimaginings of the track Beyond from their previous album, just with different approaches. I think, yeah, they just didn't want these tracks to go unheard. They had them recorded. My favorite is Beyond 4, which features great female vocals from their guest A.A. Williams, which makes it stand out from part 3 and 5 that have their more typical male vocals. But all the vocals here from Cult of Luna are clean vocals, which is not typically what they do. They're usually more aggressive and harsh vocals, but this is all clean, and all the music is soft. It's not even really metal at all, almost. It's kind of a non-metal release from them, and soft enough that even non-metal fans can enjoy it. It's still a bit metal. It's very atmospheric, it's hypnotic, and it's ambient sounding, not nearly as brutal or heavy as what they usually do. Part 5 is actually a live recording, which is cool, but it makes it sound different from part 3 and 4, which are, I don't even know if these are parts, so maybe I'm kind of getting this wrong. These are almost like versions, different versions of the same track. So it's like Beyond version 3, Beyond version 4, and Beyond version 5. It's kind of different reimaginings of this vibey track. And all in all, if you're a fan of Cult of Luna, you're going to want to hear this. I'm putting in my very good tier. Perhaps if it was a full-length album and all done in studio like this, and it had a bit more variety and had some heaviness too, I'd probably give it an excellent tier. And I know this band, I can't wait for their next album. I'm sure they'll hit it out of the park when they do a full length. But this is so short, at just 9 minutes long, it leaves me wanting more. So I couldn't realistically put it in my excellent tier. So I got to put it at very good. Now moving down to my good tier, I've got BABYMETAL with Metal Fourth, the fourth album by this Japanese band, and this is power metal with J-pop influences. They call it kawaii metal. I don't know if that's yet actually recognized as a genre, but if you do, then I guess that's what this is. Plus alternative metal, electronic, and trance influences. And yeah, I put this in my good tier. I'm not a big fan of BABYMETAL, but they are a really fun novelty act to listen to. So I checked this out. Some of the artists they're collaborating with on this release are ones that I like even more than BABYMETAL, like Polyphia and Spiritbox particularly are great collaborators, and it's great to hear their sound on this album. And BABYMETAL also collaborates with some other solid artists like Poppy, Electric Callboy, Slaughter to Prevail, Bloodywood, and even Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. It's kind of weird that the track with Slaughter to Prevail has that same trash can snare sound that I noticed on the Slaughter to Prevail album from this year. It reminds me of Saint Anger. It's weird because I didn't notice that snare sound on any of the other tracks. So I don't fully understand what these like featuring these bands mean, if it means like the bands kind of like wrote and performed all the instruments on the tracks and then it was just the BABYMETAL vocalist that went over top, or if there's kind of like a core BABYMETAL band and they just kind of like bring in some of the members from the bands they're featuring. I haven't quite researched enough to know exactly what's going on, but it was kind of funny that like maybe they got the Slaughter to Prevail drummer to play with his kit and produce it with his drum sound that he wanted, and it gave that kind of Saint Anger snare sound on that track. But I didn't notice that snare sound on any other tracks. The whole album though is very cheesy, but still pretty fun. If you like cheesy fun stuff, then you might like this. If you're a fan of stuff like Dragon Force, it's kind of silly fun, maybe you'll like it. Also, if you're a fan of female fronted metal bands like Poppy and Spiritbox, you should like this. It's basically uh, Japanese women singing kind of J-pop style vocals over metal, kind of power metal sounding music and alternative metal, electronic and trancey metal music. So check out Metal Fourth by BABYMETAL if that sounds good to you. And the last one I'm going to mention today is by Attack Attack, and it's their album Attack Attack 2, which is actually their fourth album. And this is metalcore with electronic and post-hardcore influences. I'm also putting this in my good tier. This again, like BABYMETAL, is kind of a silly novelty act to me with their electronic auto-tune pop choruses and their intense metalcore breakdowns. But they're fun to listen to sometimes, and this is their first album in 13 years, and on the second track, Dance, they feature Will Ramos of Lorna Shore on vocals, and his vocals are always excellent. But yeah, like with BABYMETAL, this band is pretty silly, pretty cheesy, but in kind of a fun and endearing way. But also a bit cringy, not a high re-listen value to this one from Attack Attack. Really fun to listen to once, but probably won't listen again if you're a fan of bands like Electric Callboy and Falling in Reverse, but kind of those kind of catchy, silly, poppy kind of metal bands, but with a bit more metalcore than those bands. Um, Getting a bit more brutal than those bands usually get, but employing a similar cheese factor, then definitely check out Attack Attack and their album Attack Attack 2. And that is it for my first impressions on these 6 new releases that came out on August 8th. Have you heard any of these? What did you think of them? Let me know down in the comments. And did anything else come out recently that you think I might enjoy? Also let me know. And if you're new to my channel, know that I do this weekly. If you like metal, rock, and prog, and you like what I do here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stay in the loop on when I post new videos. My next one, well, I'm not sure exactly if I'll do a video in between this one and the August 15th upcoming releases. Maybe I will, but definitely in about a week's time, I'll be talking about my first impressions on new stuff that's coming out August 15th from Rise Against, Panopticon, Ellefson Soto, and Brett McKenzie. So if you want to hear my first impressions on that, also stay tuned. and peace out.